Apologies, I know it's been a while, a good couple of months now since I last uploaded a podcast. I've had my own things going on, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I'm just like everyone else. I have my own things going on, I have things that I work through, and I wanted to bring you guys podcasts that, you can relate to and you can understand, but I've also got to be in the right headspace for it. It is some of the things that I talk about can even be triggering for myself. And it becomes quite hard to talk about such topics on a basis like this. But I am going to try and make these more regular. It is also hard to figure out what to talk about in terms of topics, and I don't run off a script. I try and be authentic, and while I am still doing this on my own, and I'm still, you know, working through everything that I've been going through, which, I won't go into explicit detail. You have to provide it with a sense of professionalism as well as a sense of personality to it. Otherwise, it's just like watching all these adverts for mental health that's very dumbed down, I think, in my opinion, as to how serious, people that struggle with mental illnesses or mental health is, it's often difficult to talk about, and the whole thing is to just talk about it. Obviously, there are charities and there are organizations out there that strive towards better care for people such as myself or others or yourselves. And I know that it is difficult, and it's come at such a time where it's beginning to get more recognized and a lot harder to a lot I lost my train of thought. I do apologize. It can be difficult for organizations to micromanage. Now, I know that personally. I worked in mental health care before. I've worked with, and if you're listening in England, CMHT. I've worked with them before, and especially during the pandemic, a lot of them were defeated because of how many people were calling out for help. And from an insider perspective, it was very difficult, and they did have to delegate their time towards specific cases. And people suffer with things very differently. People could go through the same trauma experiences and deal with them in very different ways, and quantify how you can't quantify how people deal with these things. Person-centered care is a very important thing. People have similar dealings. People will suffer with ADHD, for example, and they will deal with them very differently. The signs and the symptoms and the traits will be very similar, but on a personal scale, each, no one goes through cancer the exact same. Our bodies and our minds are all very different from one another. We're all unique in our own ways, and I think we got to stop grouping people together based on a label. It can be used as a guidance point, but the rule book is being changed constantly, and I think I've mentioned this in previous episodes before. But this isn't what I came on to talk about. This was more just a starting off point and more of a affirmation that I'm going to be trying my absolute hardest to be uploading more across the entire channel. I gave it a couple of months, and I'm not focused on success. I'm not focused on big numbers. If I can reach just a small group of people and have them be able to understand and relate to everything that I'm saying, is great. And that is the whole point. That is the whole point of the podcast. That is the whole point of the channel. Is always to be another person in the room when people are at their lowest. I've been there. I've watched I, when I was in that position, I watched a lot of Watch Mojo, not just to watch videos because I enjoyed them. It was because the type of voice, very calm, very soothing, very, you almost just feel as they're talking to you as if they're in the room. And a lot of the videos that I publish and post and things like that, they all try and do the same thing. Very authentic, very in the moment. Not, I don't like doing scripts. I don't, I'll introduce a video sometimes on the script and things like that, but I want to be authentic across the entire channel because that is the whole point. And, I want to bring other people on board. I want you guys to share your stories, come on the podcast, share your thoughts and opinions about anything, towards mental health. Anyways, after that long ass tangent, I've been reading up on the news a lot lately, and I don't like to. I don't like to read up on the news. I don't try and keep up with the current events. I'm very much keep to myself, be myself, live my life kind of person. But a lot of the things that I've been seeing, I can't ignore. And I'm not going to go into explicit detail, and some of the things I will talk about will be or may be triggering to some people. Please, if you do find anything that I discuss distressing, please go and talk to the organisations that I've listed down below. I am going to try and update the list. I am going to try and add more to the list so that everyone that listens to this, whatever walk their life from can access these services. A lot of what I've seen has been to do with people's characters and how people are. And in my mind, self-worth is something that comes up. Self-esteem is something that has come up across all this as a common denominator. You should be allowed to be who you are, regardless of age, sex, religion, gender identity. The list goes on and on. If who you are doesn't discriminate against anyone else, no one has the right to discriminate against you. That's the easiest way I can put it. If what you're doing and who you are discriminates against another human being, you need to look at yourself. You should be able to walk through life without judgment, fear of being yourself, and that is the thing. Regardless of who you are. We live in a world where people are just trying to be themselves, are just trying to be accepted, and people aren't being accepted. And throughout history, you see it on a regular occasion, whether people are being oppressed, people are being silenced, people are being, in the simplest way possible, hung, drunk, quartered for being who they are. I don't agree with that. And I know there are many of you out there that don't agree with that. And this isn't going to be being pointing fingers at the people that don't. It is merely just a case of if you discriminate another human being for being who they are and they are not harming anyone, then you are part of the problem. And as I say, I'm not going to go into specifics. I'm not going to specific groups of people. I'm not going to single any group out. I'm talking as a collective of people that on a regular basis have prejudice and discrimination put against them for simply being who they are and a human being. And yes, there are people in certain groups that ruin it for the rest of them, and there are people that will take it upon themselves to take for granted the groups of people that they are harming in this process. But no one, not a single, and I will drive this home, no one has the right to tell you who you should be and how you should behave if it is not harming anyone else. If you want to be, if you want to be religious and pray towards a certain deity, so long as you're not harming anyone else in the process, who cares? Why do people care so much? If you don't feel like you're the right identity or in the right body, why shouldn't you be able to change yourself? Why shouldn't you be able to express your individuality and be who you are? Why shouldn't you be able to love another human being regardless of how they identify or who they are? Why is that such a big issue? Why has that always been such a big issue? And I can list so many different other groups that oppose other groups. Groups oppose other groups on a regular basis. And to quote the Bible in this sense, it literally says, love thy neighbor. So why don't we? Why don't we love thy neighbor? Yes, there are particular groups that have made a name for themselves by the heinous acts that they commit, which has stemmed a lot of xenophobia. But throughout history, there are so many groups that have done the exact same thing. But when it comes down to individuality and people being human, we sometimes forget who we are and we are a 1 in a million chance, 1 in a billion, maybe even 1 in a trillion. Every person should be special in their own right. Every person should have individuality in their own right. And I'm talking about the common masses. I'm talking about the average Joe. I'm talking about the average Jane. I'm talking about the average person. It shouldn't... average Sam, to put it that way, for the, it's hard. It's hard to look. It's hard to watch. It's hard to take it in. And there'll always be opposition and opposition. There will always be opposing views and opinions based on how people behave in society. But for something so culturally diverse to be so opposing against other diversities and other cultures and other it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. The question should be asked: why can't two people get married if they're both the same gender or the same gender identity? Why is that such an issue? Why does that go against norm? What is normality? Normality is a construct for order and control. And I don't mean this in a political sense. I mean this in a personal sense. With the average person, let's go for example, they'll have a routine, they'll have a hobby or a place of work or a house, and the routines that they conduct within the house. That is what normality is. Normality isn't man and woman getting married, having a child. It isn't. It's considered norm against particular groups. It's considered norm against particular, religions. But other religions celebrate that. Love is a chemical reaction and a hormonal reaction between two individuals, and they celebrate that by marrying one another, by spending the rest of their lives with one another. Why is that such a problem? Why are people so opposed against that? Science has paved the way for people to have kids. Take Neil Patrick Harris and his husband, for example. They made it so that their kids were from the same donor. but they didn't know who was biologically theirs because they're their kids. No one needs to know. That does not always need to be definitive, and it's coming from the person that needs a definitive, ironically, but not in this sense, not in that sense at all. You know, I can I can empathize with the people that struggle to have kids themselves and they need to have donors, and this is a tangent within itself, and it's something that me and my partner have struggled with, and I've literally turned around and said to them, if our child, you know, our child will either be genetically both of ours or not. You know, and that should be fine. We judge as a populace, we judge so many different people based on who they want to be. It sickens me. It really does. It really does sicken me. For the most trivial of things. Trivial. People don't identify with how they were biologically born. So, if they want to change that, then change that. We're not... How do I put it? We're not throwing an agenda at society. We are raising awareness for people that struggle with their identity because of specific norms and stereotypical norms that we have imprinted onto people's lives for years. For years and years and years and years. There is too much of a black and white. There's too much black and white. Red versus blue, blue versus pink. There's so much black and white. No one is looking at the shades of grey. People don't want to identify with one specific thing. They want to be an individual. Girls don't always want to dress up in pretty dresses and high heels. They want to go out and do boxing. They want to go out and join the military. They want to play football. They want to do things that stereotypically guys have always done. And boys want to play with dolls and they want to play house. Where's the issue? Where is the issue with that? Where's the agenda? Some people just want to sit in the middle. Some people just want to sit in the middle and be androgynous. What the fuck is the problem with that? People, I know the comments, and I know I'll get comments for this podcast because it is very charged. But I am very much I will sit on the fence. I will listen to opposing opinions and views on my own opinions. But we live in a time where individuality should be celebrated. It shouldn't be discriminated against. Look between the lines of the people that are causing the harm to, not that for all those people that have caused harm within these specific communities that are trying to ruin it for other people. There are the people there that deal with the prejudice and the discrimination and in some cases oppression every day. We still live in a time where we're having to use sport as a means to kick out racism or stop hate crimes or stop hate comments or things like that. You've got all these adverts about cyberbullying against football players because they are discriminated against, or people have hate crimes or racist attacks simply for kicking a ball around and potentially missing a goal. Really? Like, when you dumb it down, it sounds stupid. Yes, emotions get high in a game, emotions get high wherever, but it's no excuse to call someone a name that is racially charged or discriminate against someone because of their religion or cause prejudice to someone because their heart was not in it on that particular day. It is no excuse. And unfortunately, you know, one, despite the amount of voices, I feel it won't get any better. I feel it won't change to the extent which we want it to. Yeah, you can have a banter and a laugh with people, and among specific friend groups, you know, there is a lot of loyalty. And when you're in a friend group, and I'm going to put this to an example. If you're in a friend group, there's someone that's trans, someone that's disabled, and you all banter with each other about those particular things, so long as people are comfortable with it within the group, then fine. And there's obviously that thing of, I'm going to call someone a name because of their disability or their gender identity, and it gets laughed off by those said people. But if someone else comes along and does it, then it's wrong. Yeah, alright, fine. But that's because you're comfortable with a person. That's because you have a relationship with a person. But that's the thing. Bullying in schools, bullying, just nastiness as a whole. People feel the need to have this hunger for power and to overpower other people because of inferiority. The one thing I haven't mentioned yet is even sexism. I don't care what anyone says. Women are not inferior to men. Men are not inferior to women. Doesn't matter what genetics, what we biologically have. People are not inferior to people. That has always been a thing. Why? It still happens today. And, these behaviors aren't genetic, they are taught. A racist does not give birth to a racist. A racist makes another racist if they choose to do so. A xenophobe gives birth to a human and will raise that human to be a xenophobe. It's nurture. It's not nature. It's not natural. I'm not a religious person. I don't believe in it. That doesn't mean other people shouldn't. So why on earth are we still discriminating against other religions? Why are religions discriminating against other religions? Why is this push for the right thing? I'm going to quote an episode of Big Bang Theory, for anyone that's seen it. Howard and Bernadette. Howard is a Jewish man and Bernadette is a Catholic girl. Or Catholic woman, sorry. And they have a child, and Sheldon's mother goes, "Are you going to raise it Jewish or regular?" There is no regular religion. Yes, I get the premise of the script, and it doesn't offend me or anything like that, and that's not what I'm trying to say, but religion is an individual thing that people will choose to follow based on cultures. And the list of the things that specific religions have done over the past, it is a mile high. It is miles high. But the people that just celebrate the religion for what it is, celebrate the beauty of it. Why do people care so much? Why do people care so much? You shouldn't. Stop caring. Stop caring so much about things like that. Live your life how you want to live your life, so long as you're not harming anyone else. And if people are getting harmed by you being homosexual, then they are the problem, not you. If you're androgynous or non-binary, you're not harming anyone. If you're any of those things and you harm other people, yes, you are a problem. But if you're not, who the fuck cares? And this is the thing. You know, my partner, not naming their names, is androgynous. And at the time that we got together, I was straight. And when they came out as being androgynous and non-binary, they came to me and said it, and I was like, okay. I didn't stay with you because of that. It actually, made me open up more about my own sexuality. It turns out, I wasn't as straight as I thought. I would identify more as pansexual because of the fact that I'm with my partner. And the fact that we're engaged. So because of that, why is there an issue? People should love people for who they are. People should get married to who they want to get married to. People should love each other for just individualities. There are always going to be people that will try and ruin it for everyone else. There will always be people that will commit these heinous acts under a name of a deity that, in reality, is a fallacy. Because that's not really what the deity wants them to do. Yes, there are certain rules within religions that I don't agree with. But there are certain rules in a society I don't agree with. And that is a topic for another day. Because I don't want to make this politically charged. I don't even want to make this, religiously charged. I'm just simply saying that no one should be allowed to tell you who you can and cannot be if it doesn't harm anyone else. No one's got the right. Be whoever you want. Love whoever you want to love, providing they love you back. It shouldn't be so hard. It shouldn't be so hard. But it is. And I'm speaking out as the straight, pansexual. I know I can't be both. I'm still confused myself about it, and I will be for a while, but at the end of the day, I love my partner, I'm staying with him. But in the stereotypical quote, I am a straight, heterosexual, white man, in what I am trying to say, that is speaking out against the people that are trying to discriminate and bring prejudice against others for wanting to be themselves. There is no agenda. There is no, this isn't a movement. This is literally people speaking out because they do not feel that they are themselves and they are trying to find themselves. Everyone questions their own identity at some point. If that leads to something where they change their entire identity so that they feel happy within themselves, then who the fuck cares? We're not pushing an agenda onto kids. We're pushing stereotypes onto kids. I, at a young age, was told a man and a woman can only get married and have kids. You are a man, so you should do these things. They are a woman, and they should do those things. No. That's what I was told as a young boy. That was what I was told in schools. So no, we're not changing normality because normality doesn't exist. There is no normal. There is no new normal. As I said, normal is just a construct. Your normality is what you construct it to be. No one else gets to decide that for you. Yes, the social normality is you wake up, you go to work, you earn money. Yeah, I get that. But in terms of your own individualities, normal is what you make of it. Because that's the beauty about life, is the fact that you have so much freedom to a certain degree to do what you choose to do. Yes, I understand there are very oppressive countries that don't allow for people to have that individuality and that freedom. But if you have that right, it's not a luxury. If you have that right to be individual and be yourselves, then be it. Some people call the Western culture a luxury. No, it's not a luxury. It should be a right. This is how human beings should live. This is how we should be. But unfortunately, there isn't. You know, yeah, this stuff makes me quite passionate, and I hope that for anyone that listens to this can take something away from what I've said. Because quite honestly, I know how hard it can be for individuals. I live in a position where I have that freedom of choice and have that freedom of my own identity. I've never believed in gender norms. I've never believed in stereotypes. People are people and people are individual. And I know this is kind of a diversion from the whole point of this podcast and what it's meant to be about, but I feel like this needed to be said. You know. And if you do struggle with anything that I've spoken about today, as I said, I'll try and update the list, but please speak to someone if you are struggling. Try and speak to a professional. Yeah, I know that I kind of made a rant about these adverts, kind of dumbing it down. Yes, you should talk to people. I'm not saying that you shouldn't. I kind of ramble on and I forget half the things that I've said, and I try not to repeat the key points of these podcasts. You know, it's tough out there. And this, my email line is always open if you want to come and join and discuss, your struggles, your thoughts, your opinions about anything that I've discussed in this episode or previous episodes. And I will try and be a little bit more forthcoming with how often I post. As I say, until I get someone come on join me for a podcast, it is going to be a lot of me talking on my own. It's sad. It's sad to see it. It's sad to see the struggle of another human being because of their own individual identity. And if they're not harming anyone, then why are people attacking them? You look at, because we are such an intelligent species compared to the rest of the planet, it is a confusing time for a lot of people, and you don't see this in the animal kingdom, as far as we know. But we have the ability to express our individual identities more than the rest of the world. The rest of the animal kingdom, the rest of any living being, we have something that, we have a lot more individuality than anything on this planet. So why shouldn't that be celebrated? We need to educate people. You know, if we educate and raise awareness on how other people can be, what is the harm? There is no harm. Stop worrying for nothing. We're not going to, screw up another generation because we're raising awareness and educating people on the fact that some people don't identify with, biological norms or gender norms. Sorry. People don't, because it's been so categorized. People don't feel like they fall into a category because they oppose against certain things. I mean, it was bound to happen eventually. You push stereotypes enough onto people, people will try and break the stereotypes and go in a completely different direction. Some of it is social, some of it is genetic. Intersex being a thing. There are so many possibilities that are probable to improbable when it comes down to the human genome. So if someone is birthed and they have the XY chromosome, but they are biologically female, who the fuck should give a shit? No one. If someone is born with Y chromosomes, I'm a little bit fuzzy on my chromosomes, sorry. Someone was born with a Y chromosome and they are biologically male. Who gives a shit? There are so many mutations within the gene pool that create many different wonders that scientists are still researching into this day. And this is what I mean about individuality. I don't fit within the stereotypical norms for a bloke. I don't. I'm not a manly man. Far fucking from it. So what? Who cares? Why do we care so much? We shouldn't. So, as I say, be who you want to be. As long as you don't harm anyone else doing it. That's all that should matter at the end of the day. And if you struggle with any of this, hopefully you can find some grace in this, or from any of the services that I've provided in the description down below. And remember, towards improving mentally every day takes time. I'll see you guys soon.